Okay, so Disney is really annoying. In no way am I trying to say that every Disney work is bad, or that even if they do have problems, you can't enjoy their films or products. I know I love me some Pirates of the Caribbean or Epcot as much as anybody, but I think it's important to recognize and discuss some of the issues with America's biggest media conglomerate. So here are my top 5 problems with Disney. Number 5. In 1998, the Copyright Term Extension Act, also known by critics as the Mickey Mouse Protection Act, extended copyright laws from a maximum of 56 to 70 years after the author's death. This might not seem like a big deal until you think about the things that would have been in the public domain this year, but instead have to wait until 2053. Songs like Jailhouse Rock and Great Balls of Fire and anything from West Side Story, movies like The Incredible Shrinking Man and The Bridge on River Kwai, and books such as On the Road and Cat in the Hat would all be available today to reinterpret, adapt, or even just enjoy online for free. In fact, nothing new came out this year, and nothing new will until 2019. That is in part because of Disney, who lobbied fiercely for the act, since it would protect early Mickey Mouse movies. Number 4. Racism. From the Siamese cat playing piano with chopsticks and singing about fortune cookies and Aristocats, to the lazy, uneducated Jim Crow, an actual crow, to the Native American song in Peter Pan explaining why their skin is red instead of the natural color of white. Disney has repeatedly included racist, stereotypical characters in their movies, and while it's great that Disney finally had their first African American female protagonist in Princess and the Frog, it doesn't negate the racism displayed in their other films. 3. Okay, I admit this is sort of two different problems, but they're connected by the fact that Disney needs to do a better job of picking what stories are to be upheld as our beloved fantasy fairy tales. Now, I know the original fairy tales have rather gruesome endings not portrayed in the films, but I'm talking about only what is in the Disney animated movies. My first problem is with Beauty and the Beast. It clearly features an abusive relationship, in which the male Beast ragefully yells at and abuses Belle, locking her in a room and denying her food and throwing objects around, all of which is dismissed as his temper. This fantasy story is teaching our children that abusive relationships are to be solved by staying with the abuser, and that if you love them enough, they'll magically transform into a handsome prince. Then there's the true love's kiss trope in Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, where a stranger approaches a sleeping woman and kisses her. But, it's okay, because it coincidentally broke an evil spell. I think Disney has to be a little more careful as to what lessons they teach children through their movies. 2. There is a clear, undeniable problem with princesses. When you think of a Disney princess, who comes to mind? Cinderella, whose prince saves her from a terrible life because of her beauty? Snow White, who is so attractive her stepmother tries to kill her out of jealousy, and a prince has to come save her. Ariel, who dreams of adventure above seas and ends up trading her voice and drastically changing her body in order for a prince to find her more attractive. Belle, who actually saves her prince's life for once by kissing him. Sleeping Beauty, in which Aurora is utterly and completely dependent upon a prince to come kiss her and save her from an eternal sleep, almost a definition of a damsel in distress. So many of the Disney heroines accomplish their goals through their physical beauty or sexuality, instead of through their intelligence, ambition, or resourcefulness, and so many are essentially dependent on a man to save them. Not to mention the sexualization of Merida, the startlingly unhealthy body image projected to young girls, or how apparently girls' faces are hard to draw differently since they all have to conform to some arbitrary beauty standard. 1. Those are not the stories. Those are not the stories. Oh my god, those are not the stories. Get your facts straight, Disney. Cinderella? The stepsisters mutilate their own feet and get their eyes picked out by birds. Also, the fairy godmother is actually her mother's spirit communicating to Cinderella through a tree planted over her grave. Little Mermaid? She dies. Yeah, she's given an ultimatum either to kill the prince or herself after the prince marries another woman, so she throws herself into the ocean and turns into sea foam. Rapunzel? The prince jumps down from the tower after being caught by the witch, is blinded by brambles, and spends a few years wandering aimlessly in the desert before his happy reunion with his wife, Rapunzel, where her magic tears, because apparently she's a phoenix, healed his eyes. Pocahontas was 11 or 12 when she befriended John Smith. No historical records ever suggest a romance between them, because that's called rape. There are countless more examples, but what I'm really trying to say is that Disney did not write these stories. At all. Really, my entire cabin at summer camp 2 years ago had never heard of the Grimm brothers, which made my heart sort of die a little. And thus concludes my 5 reasons why Disney is annoying. I love Frozen, because any movie with Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell is bound to be awesome, although I'm not a fan of their complete whitewashing of the cast. And I love a lot of Disney movies individually, but I think it's really important to watch movies with a critical eye and don't just take everything they tell you at face value. Thanks for watching, links for all my research are in the doobly-doo, and hit the subscribe button while you're at it.